are you? So guys, I was really debating on doing this video, but I'm gonna do it. So guys, as you can read the title, I had a dream. And it's been a while since I've actually dreamed, like nightmare dreams. But this dream, guys, still scares me. But I'm trying to tell this story without feeling scared, nervous. Okay, so guys, the beginning of this dream, apparently I was working for some type of corporation that had to deal with, I guess, police officers or FBI, something like that. Anyway, it was nighttime, and I remember walking out of this really, really tall building, and I never knew really what the name of the company was, but apparently I worked there. And as I was walking to my car, I got this feeling like something telling me to turn around. So as I turned around, I'm looking like on the first level, but something told me to look up. When I looked up, there was the floor that I worked on, which was the 10th floor, and you can see my office where where the parking lot is. You can see my office, and there was a lamp on in my office, and there was this black figure standing at the window. I stared at it for like a couple minutes, and then I turned around and began to fast pace to my car. And as I was walking to my car, I blacked out. I woke up inside of an interrogation room, like how they have like little metal tables, the 2 chairs, and then you have like the clear, like the glass window, and then on the other side you have like the people that are being God, how do they say it? Like how they'd be like, oh, that criminal did it. Okay. Like how they lined up 5 people type thing like that. It was on the other side. And I remember waking up, and I remember seeing the glass, and inside the glass was demons. Like at least 11 demons, but they were different ages. They were gray. They had white eyes, and they were, moving in sort of a weird way, kind of like Exodus, how they would like break their bones and shape funny, crazy looking type thing going on. Yeah. And so all of them were doing different type of positions and forms and stuff like that. There were young ones, there were kids, there were moms, women, men that were young, older, really, really old, young kids, teenage kids, but they were demons. Anyway, I noticed it, but also I wanted to know where I was. So then I began to focus on where I was, and there was the metal table, and there was the 2 chairs. I was sitting in one, and straight down was this demon sitting in a chair. Looked like a woman, but was shorter than me, gray looking. She reminded me of like, what's that movie? The movie about like when you turn out the lights, that's when this female figure will appear to you, and she will kill you. And it was attached to the mother, which was a friend of the mother's when she was a kid. And but it actually was a demon. I cannot remember what the name of the movie is, guys, but once I think of what the name of the movie is, I will put it in the description of what the woman reminded me of. And the only difference, she wasn't like a black figure. She was gray, and she looked like me, but she was gray and had white eyes. She had the shape like me, you know, like me, but she was gray and she was shorter and creepy. But anyway, she was sitting on the other end of the table, and I began to focus on her. And as I was focusing on her, she was just staring at me. She didn't say anything yet. Just looking at me. And all of a sudden, she says, "Are you afraid of me?" I said, "No. Why should I fear you?" And then she said, "You should be afraid of me. You should be scared. You should fear me." I said, "I should not fear anything but God. God is the only person that I fear. What gives you the authority to want me to fear you?" And she began to stand up on the table, and she started doing these like weird poses and weird positions and stuff like that, like the demons were doing inside of the glass. And all of it was to scare me, to get me to fear it. And nothing was working. For some reason, I was very brave. Nothing was working. And guys, she did some weird form stuff. It was like something in a fucking movie. And all of a sudden, she was on the ceiling. She was underneath the table. She was walking around me. Anything. She was trying it to scare me. I don't really think that it was a female. I don't even think that it was a male. I don't even know what it was, because its voice kept changing from a woman to very demonic. And it was just so weird, like a movie. And all of a sudden it walked back to the other end of the table. And I guess it figured it couldn't, get me to fear it, or, it couldn't scare me. So it decides to use my oldest child. And it had a form of my oldest child. It didn't form my oldest child. It appeared a form of my child, my oldest child. And it started trying to deform my son. And that's something I don't want to ever picture happening. That rips me apart. And I knew that it knew that. And I said to it, "Why are you using people that I love dearly? Why can't you scare me yourself? Why do you have to use people to weaken me? That makes you pathetic." And it, I guess, listened to me, and my son disappeared. The form of my son disappeared. And it said, "I know how to scare you." So guys, for me, I'm afraid of a lot of different movies. I've just been that way. Certain movies like 13 Ghosts, Michael Myers scares me. Freddy scares me. Jason scares me. I can watch it to a certain extent, But like 13 Ghosts is no, I can't watch that. But it decided to take the form of the ghosts from that movie, the ones that creep me out. And instead of it being one image, it was different ones, all in the same in the room with me, and they were, just acting like creepy ghosts and stuff like that, popping out of nowhere, scaring me, standing in front of me, getting all in my face, touching me. In that moment, for me, even though I know deep down I'm afraid of these things, for some reason, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't scared anymore. And I felt like, honestly, for me, the fact that I wasn't scared of it anymore, I grew up, And not only that, I knew there was a demon trying to scare me. I knew that all this that was happening was a demon. The question was, why? So I asked, what is the point of you scaring me? What's the point of me wanting to fear you? What's the point that you need me to be afraid of you? Why? It never told me, but I had this feeling inside of me that said, I want your body. I want your body. My body. And when I knew that, when I really knew that, like, wow. You see these things in movies and whatnot. But me fearing it and allowing it to take over me is what it wanted. And I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to let this thing weaken me and take over me, or was I going to fight against it? And I chose to fight against it. Because at the same time, I'm a woman of God. I have a family. I have people who love me. I have people that if this thing takes over my body, who's to say this thing won't hurt my family? You are entitled to your body. You are entitled to your spirit. You are entitled to say yes or no to demonic things. And I had to be strong, even though I knew these things that this demon was doing, was creeping me out, was scaring me, was really having my heart race. But if I would have shown any sign of weakness, it was going to push and push and push and push until it had me. Back to the story. So I made a decision. No, you're not going to take over me. I said, why do you need my body? I said, no, you can't have my body. So it decides to use my son again. But this time, it had duplicates of my son. So that screen, that glass interrogating room where all the demons were inside, those demons transformed into my son. 11 duplicates of my son, my oldest child, and how they were deformed. Some of them were deformed. One of them had a bullet in its head. One of them was split in half. One of them was all like deformed and neck broken and stuff like that. Just weird looking. Something you see in a Halloween movie, you know, scary movies, you know, Exodus movies type thing. They all had white eyes though. They looked like my son, but they had white eyes. And for some reason, they weren't gray. They weren't gray when they formed into my son. They were light skinned like my son. And, but for some reason, the whole room was still grayish looking. It kind of reminded me of like, what's that movie? Silent Hill. Where they're in a different dimension and the lighting is dark, but instead of it being like just dark, it was gray looking. I think there was a scene in it where it was gray looking, dark and gray looking like that. It was very just weird. But anyway, it formed my son. Different forms of my son. It had one where its head was shaking. You know how when they're so demonic, they shake and their head goes like all over the place and just weird. And I couldn't look at that. Like just seeing that, the bullet in my son's head, the different forms of horrible things. I said, listen, you are a demon, right? It said, I am many things. I said, are you from hell? It said, maybe. I said, I'm not giving you my body. And I don't want you to hurt my family. I don't want to see images of my son. That's sentimental to me. That's deep. It's a deep connection. And I know that you're crossing the line. I said, if you want me, come for me. Not my family. Don't hurt my family. Don't hurt my son. Come for me. In that moment, the demon said to me, it seems that you accept me. I said, we are, people make it like we have to fear everything. Like, just because you're different, just because you're demonic, doesn't mean that I am entitled to judge you. I said, you are evil. So of course there's no changing that. But I'm not your judge. All I ask is to keep my family out of it. And for some reason, guys, it's like the demon changed for a moment. Not to say it became nice or anything, but it realized it couldn't have me. That the things that were deep nightmares to me, it tried to use and could not get me to say yes. It knew it couldn't have me. And in that moment, I seen it change. It began to worry. It began to worry. And, it just was looking at me. It didn't say anything else to me. It just looked at me. And guys, now mind you, it's late at night. I'm in an interrogation room. And I'm supposed to be home. And I'm not home. So eventually I started to get tired. It wouldn't let me leave, but I started to get tired. And I started to like nod, and my eyes started to blank open and shut. And I think it knew it. And I said, I'm tired. Because I wasn't no longer afraid of it. I knew it couldn't have my body unless I allowed it. So the demon allowed me to go to sleep. I remember on the table, putting my head on the table and closing my eyes. And when I woke up, I was on the floor, and the demon's face was in my face like this, over me, just looking at me. And I knew that it had to have been watching me for a while, that I don't know what kind of scheme it was trying to come up with, or if it was just trying to sense or smell fear while I was asleep. But I wasn't afraid of it. I woke up. It couldn't attack, it wasn't trying to attack me. It wasn't trying to you know how in movies they touch you, or how people say, demon touched me, demon did this, or ghost did this type thing. It never touched me. It never touched me. It never try and break my bone. Nothing. I must have had a very, 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 very high confidence and high spirit that I had no fear. Because it never tried to attack me or anything. I got up, got back to the table, and I said, I have to go home. I said, I want to go home to my family. The demon said, since there is no fear in you, and I can't have you, you are allowed to go home. Leave. At first I thought it was a trick, But I got up, backed off, out the door, kept watching till I got outside. Kept watching, got in my car, looked in my rearview mirror, how something pops up in the back seat, and nothing. No vibe, no negative demonic waves, none of that stuff. Nothing was happening. It was like a normal moment going home. Now, of course, I didn't forget what I saw, but at the same time, I wasn't afraid. And I drove home. And where we lived was not like in this location. We were in a different location. We were in a nice house. And I remember just happy to be home and getting out of the car to go inside and to just see my family. As soon as I opened the door, my family was all lined up on the floor, dead, on their backs, together. When I saw that, it took everything I had. It took every bit of willpower I had left. It just like it drained everything and I gave up. But I didn't give up to the demon. No. I knew I couldn't live without my family. I didn't want to. So I prayed to God that he would take my life. Not my hands, but by his hands. And God heard me, because within a couple minutes, my vision went black and I went to sleep. And I woke up on a cloud. And I looked forward, I saw God's eyes. Never saw the full form of God, just his eyes and clouds. And he was just looking at me. And I was just sitting on the cloud, sad. And I was crying. I was hurting. Because even though God had my family in heaven, which they were a little bit over on another cloud. They were happy, they were smiling, they were laughing. Even though they were in heaven, God knew I wasn't happy. And as I was shedding my tears, God shed a tear for me, for my family. Because I was sad that we were dead, that we were no longer alive. Sorry, y'all. That we were dead, that we were no longer alive, and that I wasn't going to see me and my husband grow old together. I wasn't going to see my children have kids of their own and watch them grow up and be grandma. You know, I wasn't gonna have that. And the fact that if I would have said yes to this demon, who's to know what would have happened? This thing would have taken over my body and done what? What would it done? I don't know, because I would no longer have control over my body. Did I feel that I made the best decision? Even though it was a dream, did I feel that I made the best decision? Honestly, I felt that I did, but at the same time, I felt bad. Because in the end, it still got my family, and we were dead. We were all dead. Please comment and let me know what you would have done if you were in this situation. Because it still scares me thinking about it. But I wanted to really, really tell this story because maybe someone's going through the same thing or had the same dream or, you know, and had the same outcome, you know. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It felt so real. So real. So that's my story.